Been with DLA for going on 24 years now. I started my career as a 17-year-old kid, summer hire. In fact, there were a few of us at that time in the building in headquarters, and I started as a office automation clerk, I think is what they called us. I started as a GS2, and wouldn't you believe I hear always here, did they make GS2s? Yes, they make GS2s, and I am a GS15 now. At the time, I was in high school, I was bright-eyed. I really had no set aspirations. I knew I wanted to be in computers. I wanted to be actually a graphic designer. So I like to draw, cartooning, that sort of thing. But I've always had a thing for computers. So ironically, I found a path in DLA, if you will, and it served me well. When I first started with DLA, we were on something called Windows 3.1. And for those of us that have been around for a while, we know that when we logged into our computers, we had to type out the entire, what we call domain name, where you had to, for here it was hq.dla.mil, your name, and that sort of thing, just to log in on this black screen. We had big hunking computers with big monitors. It was clunky, and I can tell you, in those days, in the early days when I first joined, email was thought of as a luxury, if you will. For me, a lot of folks would open up email in the morning, go drink some coffee, come back, close it, open it back up at lunchtime, that sort of thing. We did a lot of correspondence, through memos and typing. I actually used a typewriter back then. So it's come quite a long way to what we have now. With cybersecurity, it's evolved quite a bit. I didn't start my career in cybersecurity. I kind of worked my way into it, and it's been a journey. But I stumbled my way in about 10 years ago when I took over the IT contingency and COOP program for the agency and stood that up. So now, with things going on in the world, cybersecurity is at the forefront of a lot of what we do. It's actually a cross-cutting enabler, or protection of an enabler, I should say. But today it's really a heavy focus on cybersecurity, especially being the fifth domain of warfare now. It's one of those areas that is at the forefront of the agency's thoughts and desires to keep going. My earliest memory of a world event that affected me at work was 9/11. It was one of those days where I was in J1, I was in human resources, and it was almost surreal, if you will. I was at my cubicle, normal day, and my mentor at the time, who had told me that a plane had gone into one of the buildings, and so we went to the director's office, and he had a TV, and so we got to see what was happening. So during that time, it was very challenging for all of us. We didn't. It was almost like, how do you react to that? So I could say that was my earliest memory of a world-changing event. I was still young. I think I was 21, I believe, or close to it. So it was definitely something that rocked me to my core, as it did probably most. And I think something that we all will remember. In approximately 2001, I was able to see General McNamara, DLA's first director, as he came to be honored by the building headquarters being named after him. Before, we all affectionately called it the DLA building, but it was really cool to see the first director of DLA come and actually witness the changing of the name, and to see the fruits of his early labor in DLA. In the early 2000s, during the Iraqi war, I was actually in information operations at the time, and during that time in early 2000s, I was customer relations and over the tier 1 to help desk and desktop support for headquarters. Early IT, building my career It was one of those times where you never knew what your support was actually supporting. So you try to have your level best at any given time. And I remember there were a few times I had a mentor at the time, Mr. Glasgow, and some of the things that he would tell me is to never take for granted the person who has an outage, because you never know what that person is doing. And so I always kept that close to my heart, because I knew that there may be a situation where that could have long stream effects that I may never know. And so to me, that's one of the nuggets that I carry with me today. I've stayed with DLA all these years because DLA has been very good to me. At times it's felt like even an extended family. It supported me when I was that young kid, coming into the government, not understanding what I was doing and trying to figure out next steps. It supported me in my journey in developing my career. It also supported me in my journey in having a family. My son, who in the building affectionately known as the DLA baby, I would bring him to work, and it was, so people could see him. So DLA has been very good to me and given me every opportunity I can imagine to be successful. And so I couldn't imagine being anywhere else.